Hi there, thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on using Faber Castell Pitt Pastels. Be sure to watch it right through till the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. I'm drawing this freehand, so what I normally do is actually put a center point in the center of my board and then a center point on the reference image, and then just basically working from that point using the edge of the area as well, because that is actually scaled up to 9 inch by 6 inch and the reference image is scaled up to 9 inch by 6 inch. So I'm just getting the big shape in first, using a grey pencil 273. I find using a kneadable eraser is quite useful in shaping up the outline, so you can just put a random mark down but then reshape it using the actual putty rubber. Now, top left of the screen is the inset photograph of the reference image. Bear in mind, as you view the painting, it's in perspective, so it will look slightly different, but it is in the correct proportion. Always like to put the highlight in the eye with a little bit of white, just to give it that sort of feeling. It helps when you're starting drawing the outline. It gives you that sort of personality or the sense of energy to it. So adding that little bit of white in the eyes just sort of helps you to connect to the feeling of the actual animal. Right, for the underdrawing, these are the colours I've selected here, keeping it simple, and I'm mixing the colours as I go along. Just starting with the white, just placing in highlights and mid-tones, so a bit more pressure where it's lighter and less pressure where the actual mid-tones are. I use the underdrawing as part of the outline. What it is, it actually helps me to find where the shapes are, so it's redrawing it but trying to put a little bit of form in there. So you're just using basic colours. I'm using brown and blue to create greys, and then just using yellow ochre, burnt sienna type colour and a blue, which is acting like the primary colours, and just mixing those as I go along and just trying to get some sort of idea of the placement of where these shapes are. Now, this is the first time using Faber Castell Pitt pencil as a wildlife painting. I've done a portrait skin tone just recently uploaded in my channel if you wanted to have a look at that, but I'm experimenting with these pencils, not used them before, and they're quite interesting to use, but my procedure is slightly different because they're not as chalky as the Carbothello ones like I normally use. I don't know, they seem to cling a little bit more to the actual pastel mat. So I decided to initially just work on the head to start with, just to get an idea and a feel for the pencils. Like I say, I've not used these before as for wildlife painting. So I started to sort of really focus on then trying to get a little bit of chroma in there, trying to get some value in there as well. So basically, normally I would go across the whole thing, just doing an underdrawing very lightly, just getting everything drawn correctly. But what I decided here is just to try and focus on a little bit more on that area just around the head, just to get a feel for these pencils. So just got to build these layers up. You've got to build it up slowly but surely and keep adding more and more pigment. And more and more pigment you put on with these pencils, the easier it becomes to move things around. So initially it will feel quite awkward and feel a little bit sort of it's going against what you're trying to do. So you have to be patient and build it up slowly, but they will come together eventually. Added some more colours now to the mix just to help out now with the chroma, and this is like a rich colour stage, because normally I would, like say, do the whole thing as an underdrawing, but I've decided to work on this, so I'm starting putting some more subtleties in now. So I'm building it up, getting the values and the chroma and the subtleties in, just to see what these pencils can do. Again, the darkest areas in first, so I'm just putting that black in there and then mixing bits of different colours in with that black just to create the subtlety. Now using the white and also a light yellow ochre mix here just to create the highlights. What I'm doing is putting lighter underneath and glaze over the top, so I'm putting the white or the light yellow ochre mix in and then just glaze, white and glaze, white, glaze. So I'm trying to build up the layers. It will be lighter when you first put those in, but when you glaze over it becomes the right colour, and just keep repeating that process. Now for the subtle shadows I'm using brown and blue together, but then when it needs a little bit more depth I'm just adding a bit more black to it, just to create that sort of the feel I'm wanting. I'm using yellow ochre with black, which creates like a nice greeny greys as well, which is interesting. You have to keep playing about and trying these different things, but this is exactly the same colour combination that I normally use with all my wildlife paintings, but it's just the procedure slightly different because of the nature of the pencils. I do prefer the Carbothello for the softness and the sort of the way it glides on the pastel mat, where you can blend it easy, working pencil over pencil. Now my approach is to let go of the mind, open the heart and just focus on the energy of the subject, and this helps you to keep relaxed and it flows more easily then, because there is a possibility that you can get really tense and frustrated when you start to do a painting because there's so much detail to be done. So you have to focus here and now on the moment and don't look too far ahead. Perseverance is the key, and just keep working layer after layer and just let it flow. If you find that you're getting really tense, just have a minute, just go away, sit in a room, be quiet, come back after 5-10 minutes and then start again. So have loads of little breaks. That really makes a difference when you're doing something as intricate as this. Now this is still a blocking stage, it's like a rich colour stage, but it's not the intricate details. That will be put on later on in the video. You'll see me putting all the very subtle details in later. But what it is, it's just a case of getting that sort of saturation right, the chroma, the value, getting some idea of the colour temperature as well, and then just leaving it to a certain point and then come back later and put those very, very subtle shadows and highlights and details in. It just makes all the difference. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Now this part of the painting is quite interesting to achieve because there's so much detail. It can be quite overbearing or overwhelming, so like I say, just keep having plenty of breaks. My approach is to just keep things simple, so basically what I'm using is a light ochre mix with brown, and then just try and get that position of the area right, so you're drawing them in and then you can glaze over the top of it with the subtleties. Checking the alignment by using the pencil vertically as well and comparing it to what I've already drawn, and horizontally as well, just getting that sort of cross-reference with your pencil just to get that sort of feeling of where the position is. So constantly measuring, constantly drawing. So that's why I like to do freehand, because you're constantly free flowing. You're drawing as you go along and you're moving things around, so you're not frightened of moving things. And I'm using the white to get that chroma, then I'll glaze over them with a lemon yellow in a bit with that. Putting a bit of background in as well, just to help me to sort of feel my way or where things go. Just slowing it down to real time so you can see the natural pace I'm working. It's quite slow, it's just methodical. You just take your time, one piece at a time, just being aware of the whole image the way you're doing it though, so you're connecting on the energy of the creature, whatever subject you're doing, just keeping a feeling of a connection to it and just let it sort of happen. What I tend to do is find areas that sort of stand out, so I squint my eyes and you see a shape, so you draw that shape in first, and then you've got then a point of reference that you can find the other areas. So you just finding these sort of blocks of shadows and then just fill in between, and don't worry about the colours not being right. Just use brown, white or the light ochre mix. Just get a feeling of where things go, and then everything will be glazed over later. So it's just a case of just getting this underdrawing in, but taking your time. But it does take a while, so you have to be patient. So when you've got a portion done, then you can go over and glaze a little bit then with the burnt sienna, and then put a little bit of shadow in here and there using the dark brown and blue. Now another tip is that if you get sort of bogged down with an area and you get lost in it, just change it up, go to a different area. As what they say is, change is good as a rest, and it does make a difference. Now you notice the grip on the pencil is quite a distance away from the point, and that's because I'm wanting loose marks to start with. So I'm just getting everything in loosely, and then what I'll do then is just tidy it all up and just get smaller and smaller with the marks. Just slowing things down now, just so you can see how I'm putting the hair in. Just going with the direction of the hair, just strokes, one stroke at a time, and then going in between them stroke with a bit of brown and a bit of blue in certain areas as well. But just taking your time, flowing with it, just getting the feel for it. You know, while you're doing these details, I'm always connecting to the energy. It's constantly connecting to how that creature feels, and then just let it just flow on its own. It's amazing how that just happens eventually. It just takes practice of just letting go of the mind. The more you open with the heart, the more everything will just sort of be spontaneous, and it's such a joy to feel when you get into that state. Now it's really important to make sure the dark is as dark as you can get it, because it really makes the difference in realism. Then the more you can get those blacks black, and your thing is not to just use neat black, mix something with it. In this area I use black with a bit of warm red and sometimes with a bit of blue, so you've got to play about with it really, and then once you get them deep shadows, everything else becomes a little bit more easier to see then. Once you're happy with the placement of the hairs, then it's time to glaze over them with a bit of yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and then using brown in between and blue to create the shadow in between the hairs. And then basically just it gets subtler and subtler as you get more and more layers. So it's just a case, like I say, to keep building it up. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all my Patreons for their wonderful support every month. I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. It does make all the difference. If you're considering joining me on Patreon and would like the benefit of longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please check out the link in the description below. It's a great price, it's just £4 a month, but this will give you access to every tutorial on there in my library. I'm going to speed through this section because obviously it's a bit tedious for you to watch. It's the same sort of thing right through. So basically again I'm just getting the pattern, just getting, squinting my eyes, getting sort of blocks in first, the dark areas, and then filling in between then with the white. So all I'm interested in is just using the white and brown, and then once I'm happy with the position, just put a bit of brown and blue in there for the shadow, and just keep repeating that until it's actually completed, and that's the underdrawing done. And then we can start putting the actual glazing over the top and all the subtleties. Just slowing it down to real time now, just showing you how I get the chroma in there and try and get that gold colour. Basically what I'm putting is white down first, then I'm glaze over then with the lemon yellow, and then put the burnt sienna over the top, which creates a gold, and then just keep repeating that, just going over the light colour, glazed light colour, then in between just putting a bit of brown and blues. It's a case of just keep repeating it until it becomes the correct colour eventually. So repeat the procedure on the spiky quills on the hedgehog's coat. If you're enjoying this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to me, as this would help the channel to grow. When I was drawing this, I was imagining the spikes of these quills, which helped me to create the feel I was looking for. Now I just want to rush through this background, so it leaves me plenty of time at the end of this video to actually show you how I put all the fine details into the hairs of the hedgehog. Now I use basically primary colours for the background. I use a cold red, yellow ochre and a light ultramarine colour, and then just mix those in, just blending them into the background, just using a cotton bud as well, just to blend them in. Procedure I normally do is using the white first, then glaze over with the colours. So getting the white down, glaze over with these primary colours, and then what I use then to create the subtle sort of values, I use the grey and also a brown in places as well, just to get that sort of subtlety of a value change, and then just keep working it in, and eventually it comes together. It just creates really nice rainbow colours. It's very difficult to find a colour that's going to match this in your kit, so really using these three primary colours really helps you to learn how to mix any colour really, so you never get stuck and you never get sort of confused when you look in your box and you think, well, what colour do you use? Nothing looks the same, but you just mix it as you go along. That's the way I found as the easiest way, and it keeps things simple. The simpler the better. It becomes a lot easier to create these colour subtleties. Slowing it right down to real time now, so you can see how I'm putting these details in now. So I'm just putting the highlights in where they need to go, and then what I'll do is just glaze over then again with the primary colours like blue and red in this instance, just to create a purpley colour over this white. I've sharpened my pencils really to a fine point with this, and then I'm just putting these whiskers in now very lightly with the brown. Just got to take your time and just let it flow. Just little marks here and there. Just makes all the difference. Putting a little pressure here, more pressure when it's darker. So you're varying the pressure of these strokes. I have to be careful not to have it too detailed. Now my reference image is never blown up to really big so I can see all the details. It's always at the same size where I can see the whole image. Even at the detail stage I've kept it at the same size because I want to get a feeling of the animal I'm drawing, not the detail, because in nature when you see something you don't look at all the detail, you look how it feels. And so that's why I go for the feeling rather than the detail. That it's detailed enough, but if you blew that reference image and put it against this, it wouldn't look the same, because I don't want it to look like a photographic replica. It's actually your interpretation of it. So what I'm doing is a suggestion of detail here and there. Now it's surprising what you do if you just put a little spot of highlight here and there, just a little spot, a little glint. It just makes all the difference, and little bits of shadow here and there, and just to create that sort of depth you're looking for and that feeling. And it's surprising, just those little bits of marks just creates the illusion of loads of detail, but there isn't a lot of detail in there, but it looks like it. The mind looks at it and thinks that's detail, but it actually is just suggestions. But just putting those little highlights here and there just makes all the difference. And then it's just a case of putting the spikes in and into the background, just here and there. Just, you don't have to do it exactly like the reference, it's just a feeling of what it looks like. Thank you so much for watching the video right till the end. I hope you've enjoyed this. Here's the actual painting at the correct angle rather than being in perspective on the easel. If you would like to see more of my work, please check out these links here. Take care.